Hello, weary travelers of the night, and welcome to a journey through history's frozen shadows. Imagine this. Your breath turns to frost, sharp as glass, cutting the air in a hole barely wider than your shoulders, where the earth itself feels like it wants to swallow you whole. This is the Ardennes, December 1944, a place where winter and war conspire to test the soul. If stories of courage carved in ice speak to you, please like and subscribe. But only if you feel the pull of history's quiet truths. Share in the comments where you're listening from and what hour keeps you awake. It's humbling to know how far these tales travel. So dim the lights, turn on a fan, and let the blankets pull you close. As a young American soldier, barely 19, you crouch in a foxhole, clutching an M1 Garand, while the Battle of the Bulge whispers its threats through the trees. Let this story, woven from history's threads, guide you gently into the past, where survival hangs on a single breath. The night grips you like a fist, its cold fingers clawing through the thin wool of your overcoat. You're 19, crouched in a foxhole no deeper than a child's grave, the frozen earth unyielding beneath your knees. This is the Ardennes, December 1944, where winter carves its battle lines in the Battle of the Bulge. Snow falls not in soft flakes, but in sharp, needle-like grains, pricking your exposed neck and slipping past the frayed edges of your gloves. Beside you, the M1 Garand rests, its steel barrel so cold it feels like it could burn your palm. The air carries a faint whiff of old gunpowder, damp wool, and the distant ghostly trace of wood smoke from some unseen fire. You shift, and the ground creaks, as if the forest itself resents your presence. This hole, barely wide enough for your shoulders, is your world now, a fragile sanctuary in a war that pauses but never sleeps. You're part of the 101st Infantry Division, holding a thin stretch of line near Bastogne, where the trees stand like skeletal sentinels under a starless sky. The foxhole, dug in haste, feels more like a trap than a shield, its walls hardened by frost into something akin to stone. Your closest comrades, Joe, a grizzled veteran with a Chicago drawl, and Tommy, a fellow rookie with eyes too wide for this place, are somewhere out there, in their holes, a few yards away. Yet the darkness isolates you, wrapping you in a silence so thick it hums in your ears. Every breath escapes in a white plume, curling upward like a prayer you don't dare speak. The wind howls through the bare branches, a low moan that seems to whisper of things waiting just beyond the tree line. You wonder if the forest knows something you don't. Your hands tremble as you clutch the rifle, not from fear, not yet, but from the cold that seeps into your bones like ink into paper. The temperature hovers below zero, a fact you don't need a thermometer to confirm. It's written in the ache of your joints, the numbness creeping up your fingers. You try to adjust your position, but the earth resists, its jagged edges biting through your trousers. Somewhere in the distance, a faint rumble of artillery rolls across the hills, not close, not aimed at you, but enough to remind you that peace is a lie. The war is out there, biding its time, and you're a guest in its house. You think of home, a kitchen table, the clink of a spoon against a coffee mug, your mother's voice calling you to supper. But those memories feel like relics from another life, buried under the weight of this frozen moment. The foxhole smells of damp soil and something sour, like sweat trapped in wool for too long. You notice it most when you lean against the wall, where frost clings like a second skin. Your pack, stuffed with a half-empty canteen and a tin of sea rations, presses into your back, a constant reminder of how little you have to sustain you. The rations are mostly beans and hardtack, the kind of food that fills your stomach but starves your soul. You haven't eaten since dusk, and even then, it was a hurried affair, scooping cold mush from a tin while snow dusted your knuckles. Joe had laughed, saying the army's idea of a meal was proof they wanted you miserable before the Germans even got a chance. You smiled then, but now, alone in the dark, you wonder if misery is the real enemy here. Your orders are simple. Watch, listen, report. The line you hold is a mere 300 yards, a fragile thread in the vast tapestry of the Ardennes front. The Germans are out there somewhere, their panzer divisions rumoured to be slicing through the fog and snow. But for 3 days, nothing has stirred. No gunfire, no shouts, just the endless whine of the wind and the occasional snap of a branch under the weight of ice. The silence is worse than the noise, though. It's a trickster, making you question every sound, every shadow. You strain your eyes, peering into the blackness, but the forest reveals nothing. Your fingers tighten around the Garand stock, its wood worn smooth by hands before yours. You wonder how many others held this rifle, how many didn't make it back to tell the tale. Joe's voice drifts through the darkness, a low murmur from his foxhole to your left. He's talking about Chicago again, about ice skating on a frozen pond and falling flat on his face in front of a girl he liked. His words are meant to ease the tension, but they only make the cold feel sharper, the distance from home vaster. You try to picture that pond, the laughter, the warmth of a world untouched by war, but the images slip away like smoke. Tommy, in the hole to your right, says nothing. His silence is heavier than the snow, a quiet that speaks of fear he hasn't yet learned to hide. You want to call out to him, to say something reassuring, but the words stick in your throat, frozen like everything else. The cold is a living thing, a predator that hunts you as surely as any enemy soldier. It creeps into your boots, numbs your toes until they feel like stones. You wiggle them, hoping to coax some feeling back, but it's a futile effort. Your scarf, caked with frost, scratches your chin as you pull it tighter. You think of the men who came before you, the ones who dug these holes in summers past, when the ground was soft and the air didn't bite. Now, the earth is a traitor, offering no comfort, only resistance. You imagine writing home, telling your family you're fine, but the thought feels absurd. Fine is a word for people who sleep in beds, not holes. If you die here, frozen in this pit, you hope someone will at least note you kept your post, though you suspect the army would just call it holding the line. History weighs on you, though you don't know it by name. The Battle of the Bulge, as it will later be called, is a desperate gamble by Hitler to split the Allied lines, to drive a wedge through the Ardennes, and reclaim the momentum of a war he's losing. You're just a cog in that machine, a boy with a rifle, tasked with holding a scrap of forest against an enemy you haven't yet seen. The 101st Infantry Division is stretched thin, surrounded, supplies dwindling as the snow buries roads and hope alike. Bastogne, a few miles away, is a name you'll hear in whispers, a town that will become legend for those who survive. But tonight, it's just a word, as distant as the stars hidden by clouds. You shift again, and the foxhole seems to shrink, its walls closing in like a jealous lover. The wind carries a new sound, a faint rustle, not quite a branch, not quite a footstep. Your heart lurches, but you force it still. It's probably nothing, you tell yourself. A deer, maybe, or snow sliding off a tree. But your hand stays on the rifle, your thumb brushing the safety. You think of the stories Joe told about German scouts moving like ghosts, their knives sharper than the cold, You wonder if you'd hear them coming, or if death would be as silent as this night. The thought isn't comforting, but it keeps you awake, which is the point. In this moment, you're not just a soldier. You're a sentinel of a world that feels both ancient and fleeting. The Ardennes, with its endless trees and frozen rivers, has seen wars before, and it will see more after you're gone. But tonight, it's your stage, your crucible. You're here to hold the line, to survive the cold, to outlast the darkness. And though you don't know it, this night will carve itself into history, into the stories told by those who live to see the dawn. For now, you breathe, slow and shallow, and let the forest's silence pull you deeper into its embrace. 3 days have etched themselves into your bones, each hour a slow grind against the frozen earth of your foxhole. The Ardennes, December 1944, is a crucible where time frays like the edges of your poncho, tattered and useless against the cold. You're a private in the 101st Infantry Division, tasked with holding a 300-yard stretch of line near Bastogne, where the forest looms like a jury of ghosts. Your world is this pit, a shallow scar in the ground, its walls glistening with ice that catches the faint glow of a moon you can't see. The air tastes of frost and despair, laced with the sour tang of unwashed wool and the metallic bite of gun oil. You shift, and the dirt crunches beneath you, a reminder that even the earth is an unwilling ally in this war. Your task is to watch, to listen, to sound the alarm if the Germans stir. But for 3 days, nothing has come. No gunfire, no footsteps, only the relentless silence that hums louder than any shell. The quiet is a thief, stealing your nerve, making every rustle in the underbrush feel like a prelude to death. You grip your M1 Garand, its weight a cold anchor in your hands, and try to focus. The rifle's barrel is slick with frost, its trigger guard biting into your ungloved fingers. You've learned to move slowly, deliberately, because haste in this hole means a bruised shin or a cracked elbow against the unyielding walls. The cold is a master sculptor, chiseling your breath into fragile clouds that dissolve into the night. The rhythm of the line is brutal in its simplicity. 2 hours on watch, 4 hours to rest. Rest is a cruel jest, though. It means curling into the bottom of the foxhole, your knees tucked to your chest, the poncho pulled tight like a shroud. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by the wind's howl or the distant thud of artillery from some other part of the front. Those shells aren't for you, not yet, but their echoes ripple through the forest, a reminder that the war is a beast that never truly slumbers. You try to dream of warmth, a fireplace, a bowl of stew, but the cold snaps you back, its teeth sunk deep into your marrow. Your boots are damp, your socks a sodden betrayal, and you wonder if you'll ever feel your toes again. Food is another ritual, as sparse as it is uninviting. You fumble with a tin of sea rations, the metal so cold it sticks to your skin. The beans inside are a congealed mass, speckled with frost, and you scoop them out with a spoon you've kept tucked in your belt. The taste is bland, like chewing regret, but you eat because hunger is a worse enemy than boredom. You chew slowly, the sound loud in the silence, and think of the dinners back home. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, the clatter of plates. Here, the only clatter is the spoon against the tin, and the only warmth is the fleeting heat of your breath. You'd laugh at the irony if your jaw weren't so stiff. Surviving a war to die of bad cooking seems like a joke only the army could write. Joe, the veteran in the foxhole to your left, is your lifeline to sanity. His voice, rough with a Chicago edge, drifts over during the quiet hours. He talks of home, of skating rinks and bar fights, His story's a fragile bridge to a world beyond this frozen hell. Last night, he told you about a girl who dumped him for slipping on ice mid-date, and you caught yourself grinning despite the ache in your chest. Joe's laughter is a weapon, cutting through the dread, but it's fleeting. Tommy, to your right, offers no such comfort. He's a rookie like you, his silence heavier than the snow piling up around your hole. When you glance his way, you see only the glint of his helmet, tilted as if he's studying the darkness for answers it won't give. The forest itself is a character in this war, its trees looming like silent judges, their branches clawing at the sky. The snow falls heavier now, dusting your shoulders, settling into the creases of your coat. You brush it off, but it's a futile gesture. The cold claims everything in the end. You think of the men who held this line before you, their names lost to the wind, their foxholes now graves or forgotten pits. The Ardennes has seen blood before, centuries of it if the stories are true, and it drinks deeply, indifferent to whose side you're on. You're just a boy, a speck in its vast frozen memory, and yet you're here, holding a rifle, pretending you can outlast the night. Your equipment is a study in survival's bare minimum. The M1 Garand, with its 8-round clip, is reliable but heavy, its woodstock worn smooth by hands long gone. Your pack holds a canteen half filled with water that's starting to slush, a few more tins of rations, and a photograph you don't look at because it hurts too much. The poncho, meant to keep you dry, is a cruel irony in this weather, its edges stiff with ice. You've heard tales of soldiers in warmer fronts, with hot coffee and dry socks, and you envy them with a bitterness that surprises you. Here, warmth is a memory, and comfort is a lie you tell yourself to keep going. The Battle of the Bulge, though you don't know it by that name, is a desperate gamble by the Germans to break the Allied advance. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, and the snow buries roads faster than they can be cleared. Bastogne, a name whispered in briefings, is the key to holding this front. But to you, it's just a dot on a map you've never seen. Your job is simpler: stay alive, stay alert, keep the line. But the simplicity is deceptive. Every moment in this hole tests you, not just your body, but your will. You think of the men back home, safe in their beds, and wonder if they'll ever know what it costs to hold a patch of dirt in a forest that doesn't care. The silence grows heavier, pressing against your eardrums like water. You strain to hear something, anything, that isn't the wind or your heartbeat. A branch snaps somewhere to the north, and your breath catches, your fingers tightening on the rifle. It's probably nothing, you tell yourself, just the forest settling under its weight. But doubt gnaws at you, a quiet parasite. You imagine German scouts, their faces shadowed, creeping closer with knives drawn. You've heard stories of men taken in the night, their screams swallowed by the snow. You shake the thought away, but it lingers, a cold weight in your gut. In this frozen limbo, you find yourself clinging to the smallest rituals. You check your rifle's bolt, though you've done it a dozen times. You pat your pockets, feeling for the spoon, the canteen, the photograph. These acts are meaningless, yet they anchor you, proof that you're still here, still fighting. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this hole, but it feels like a fairy tale. If you survive this, you muse. You might write a letter home, boasting about how you outlasted the cold. But deep down, you know the truth. The cold is winning, and it's only a matter of time before it claims something more than your comfort. The cold is a thief, stealing the warmth from your veins with a patience that feels almost personal. You're curled in your foxhole, a 19-year-old private in the 101st Infantry Division, clinging to the edge of survival in the Ardennes, December 1944. The snow falls heavier now, a relentless curtain of white that buries the world beyond your shallow pit. Your poncho, stiff with frost, crackles as you pull it closer, a futile shield against the wind that slices through the forest like a blade. The air is sharp, carrying the bitter scent of pine sap and the faint, acrid trace of cordite from some distant skirmish. Your M1 Garand lies across your lap, its steel barrel a cold weight that mirrors the heaviness in your chest. The forest hums with a silence that feels alive, watching, waiting for you to falter. Your body aches, not just from the cold, but from the way the frozen earth presses against you, unyielding as a judge. Your back is a map of bruises, each one earned from shifting against the jagged walls of your foxhole. The ground is no friend here. It's a grudging host, offering only discomfort and the occasional shard of ice that digs into your spine. You try to stretch, but the space is too small, forcing you to curl tighter, your knees brushing your chin. Each breath is a labor, the frigid air stinging your lungs like a swarm of tiny wasps. You blow into your hands, hoping to thaw your fingers, but the warmth vanishes as quickly as it comes, swallowed by the night's insatiable hunger. Memories creep in unbidden, soft as whispers but sharp as thorns. You see your childhood home, a small house in Ohio, the porch creaking under your father's boots, the smell of fresh bread wafting from the kitchen. You can almost hear your sister's laughter, high and bright, as she chased fireflies in the summer dusk. Those moments feel like artifacts now, relics from a world that no longer exists. The contrast is brutal. There, the glow of a lantern. Here, the oppressive dark of a forest that seems to resent your presence. You try to hold on to those images, to anchor yourself, but they slip away, eroded by the cold that gnaws at your edges. You wonder if you'll ever see that porch again, or if this hole will be the last home you know. Joe's voice cuts through the darkness, low and gravelly, from his foxhole a few yards away. He's talking again, this time about a winter in Chicago when the snow piled so high he had to climb out his window to get to school. His stories are a lifeline, a thread of normalcy in this frozen purgatory, but they also sting, reminding you of what you've left behind. You listen, grateful for the distraction, but the cold makes it hard to care about anything beyond the next breath. Tommy, in the hole to your right, breaks his usual silence tonight. His voice is soft, hesitant, as he mutters about the weather back in Iowa. Endless fields, endless skies, nothing like this suffocating forest. You nod, though he can't see, and feel a pang of kinship for his quiet struggle. The Ardennes is a battlefield unlike any other, a place where winter is as much an enemy as the Germans. The Battle of the Bulge, though you don't call it that, is a desperate clash, with Hitler's panzer divisions pushing through the snow to break the Allied lines. Your division, the 101st, is surrounded, cut off from supplies, the roads choked with ice and despair. Bastogne, a name that carries weight in hushed briefings, is the linchpin, but to you, it's just a rumor, a place you've never seen. Your reality is this foxhole, this rifle, this endless night. You've heard of men freezing to death in their holes, their bodies found stiff as boards, and you wonder if the army keeps a tally for those lost to the cold instead of bullets. Your hands fumble with the straps of your pack, checking for the canteen, the photograph, the extra clip of ammunition. These small acts are a ritual, a way to assert control over a world that offers none. The canteen is half frozen, the water inside a sluggish slush that tastes of metal and regret. You think of the coffee shops back home, the steam rising from mugs, the chatter of people who didn't know war. Here, the closest thing to coffee is the bitter memory of it, and you trade your rifle for a hot cup right now. The thought almost makes you laugh. Imagine facing a Panzer with a steaming mug instead of a Garand. It's the kind of absurd bargain only a frozen soldier would consider. A flicker of defiance against the night's grim hold. The forest seems to breathe, its exhale stirring the snow into restless drifts. You listen, ears straining for anything beyond the wind's low moan. A twig snaps, far off, and your heart lurches, but you force it still. It's just the forest, you tell yourself, playing tricks on a tired mind. But the doubt lingers, a shadow at the edge of your thoughts. You've heard stories of German patrols, silent as wolves, slipping through the trees to slit throats before dawn. The 101st has held this line against odds that feel impossible, and you wonder how many others have sat in this same dirt, staring into the same darkness, waiting for an enemy they couldn't see. Your scarf, crusted with ice, scratches your neck as you adjust it, a futile attempt to keep the cold at bay. The poncho is no better, its fabric heavy with damp, clinging to you like a second skin. You think of the soldiers who fought here in summers past, when the ground was soft and the air didn't bite. They had it easier, you muse, but then you catch yourself. War spares no one, not then, not now. The Ardennes has always been a graveyard, its soil soaked with blood from battles older than your grandfather's stories. You're just another name in its ledger, another soul it might claim before the sun rises. The cold shapes your thoughts, turning them sluggish, heavy. You try to focus on the present, on the weight of the rifle, the texture of the dirt, but your mind drifts to what might come next. If you survive this night, what then? Another foxhole, another stretch of line, another dance with death. The thought is exhausting, but it keeps you awake, which is the point. You imagine writing a letter home, telling your family about the forest, the cold, the silence. But words feel inadequate, like trying to describe a storm to someone who's never felt rain. If you make it through, you think, you'll tell them you survived the Ardennes, and maybe they'll understand what that means. The night stretches on, a vast, unyielding thing that seems to mock your smallness. You're just a boy, a speck in the grand machinery of war, yet here you are, holding a line that could decide the fate of thousands. The 101st stand at Bastogne will be written in history books, but you don't know that. You only know the cold, the rifle, the waiting, and in that waiting, you find a strange resolve, a quiet strength born of necessity. You're here, alive, breathing. For now, that's enough. The forest watches, silent and ancient, and you meet its gaze, ready for whatever it brings. The night is a living thing, a vast, inky beast that swallows light and sound with equal greed. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, crouched in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944, where the Ardennes forest breathes menace. The moon is gone, smothered by clouds so thick they seem to press down on your shoulders. Snow falls in whispers, dusting your helmet, settling into the creases of your coat like an unwanted guest. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine, tinged with the faint, acrid bite of gunpowder lingering from some far-off fight. Your M1 Garand is a coal companion, its barrel glistening with frost, its weight a reminder of the fragile line between you and the darkness. The forest is silent, but it's a silence that watches, waiting for you to blink. Your eyes strain against the blackness, useless in this void where sight is a memory. The army banned flashlights. Light is a traitor, a beacon for German snipers. And so you rely on sound, on the subtle language of the night. The wind moans through the skeletal trees, a low dirge that carries the crunch of snow, the snap of a twig, the faint rustle of something moving just beyond your reach. Each noise is a question, and your heart answers with a thud. Is it a deer stumbling through the underbrush, or a German scout, knife in hand, creeping closer? Your fingers curl around the rifle stock, the wood smooth and icy, and you force your breathing to slow, each exhale a faint cloud that betrays your presence. The cold is a blade, slicing through your poncho, cutting deeper with every passing minute. The foxhole is a prison, its frozen walls closing in like a jealous lover. You shift, and the earth groans, its icy surface biting into your knees. Your body begs for rest, but rest is a luxury you can't afford. Your eyelids droop, heavy as lead, and you fight them back, inhaling the frigid air until it burns your throat. The cold keeps you awake, a cruel ally that stings your lungs and numbs your fingers. You think of summers back home, of lying in the grass under a wide Ohio sky, the sun warm on your face. But those memories are ghosts, fading into the darkness of this forest, where every moment feels like a debt you'll pay with your life. You wonder if survival is just a matter of outlasting the night, or if the night will outlast you. The silence is a predator, stalking your thoughts, amplifying every doubt. You've been on this line for 3 days, and the absence of gunfire is more unnerving than its presence. The Germans are out there, their panzer divisions rumored to be massing in the fog, their scouts moving like shadows. The Battle of the Bulge is a desperate thrust, Hitler's last gamble to break the Allies, and you're a speck in its chaos, a boy with a rifle tasked with holding a scrap of frozen dirt. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, and the snow buries hope as quickly as it buries the roads. Bastogne is a whisper in the wind, a name that carries weight but offers no comfort. Your world is this hole, this rifle, this endless vigil. Joe's voice, rough and low, drifts from his foxhole, a lifeline in the dark. He's quiet tonight, his usual stories of Chicago replaced by a soft hum, a tune you don't recognize but cling to like a rope. It's a small act of defiance, a reminder that humanity persists even here. Tommy, to your right, is silent again, his presence marked only by the faint clink of his canteen as he shifts. You want to call out, to ask if he's still there, but the silence forbids it. Sound travels too far in this forest, and you've heard tales of men betrayed by a cough or a whisper. You imagine writing a letter home, boasting about how you outsmarted the night, but the thought feels hollow. If you die here, you muse, the army might call it a heroic stand, but you'd just be another name scratched into the snow. Your equipment is a study in endurance, each item a testament to survival's cost. The M1 Garand, with its 8-round clip, is a lifeline, but its weight drags on your arms. Your pack holds a canteen of slushy water, a few tins of sea rations, and a letter you haven't opened, its edges soft from being carried too long. The poncho, meant to keep you dry, is a cruel jest, its fabric heavy with ice, clinging to you like a second skin. You think of the soldiers in warmer theatres, sipping coffee under canvas tents, and a bitter envy stirs. Here, warmth is a dream, and survival is a game of inches. You'd trade your boots for a hot meal, but then you'd have to walk barefoot through this frozen hell. A bargain only a fool would make. The forest is a labyrinth, its trees twisting into shapes that mock your senses. You listen, ears straining for anything beyond the wind's mournful song. A faint crack echoes from the north, and your breath catches, your fingers tightening on the rifle. It's nothing, you tell yourself, just a branch buckling under the snow's weight. But doubt is a parasite, burrowing into your mind. The Germans are masters of the night. Their scouts trained to move without sound, their knives sharper than the cold. You've heard stories of entire squads vanishing, their foxholes found empty at dawn. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you wonder how many others have stared into this same darkness, their courage swallowed by the forest's hunger. Your thoughts drift to the men who came before you, their names lost to the wind, their foxholes now part of the earth's memory. The Ardennes has seen wars for centuries, its soil a tapestry of blood and bone. You're just another thread, a boy tasked with holding a line that feels like it could crumble at any moment. You check your rifle's safety, a ritual to keep your hands busy, to keep your mind from wandering too far. The cold is relentless, turning your fingers clumsy, your joints stiff. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this war, but it feels like a fairy tale too fragile to hold. If you survive, you'll carry this night with you, a scar no one will see. The silence deepens, a weight that presses against your chest. You try to focus on the present, on the texture of the rifle, the bite of the cold, but your mind rebels, conjuring images of home. You see your mother's face, the way she smiled when you left, not knowing if you'd return. You want to believe you'll see her again, but the forest doesn't care about your hopes. It's a witness to your struggle, indifferent and eternal. You're here to hold the line, to outlast the night, to prove that you're more than a speck in this war. And so you sit, rifle in hand, listening to the darkness, ready for whatever it brings. The night holds its breath, and you hold yours, a 19-year-old private in the 101st Infantry Division, tucked into a foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944. The Ardennes forest is a labyrinth of shadows, its silence a taut wire ready to snap. Your M1 Garand rests against the icy wall, its barrel gleaming faintly, a cold sentinel in a world where warmth is a myth. The air is sharp, laced with the earthy musk of frozen soil and the distant tang of smoke, as if the war itself exhales through the trees. Snow falls in relentless whispers, piling around your boots, each flake a tiny blade against your skin. Then, near midnight, a sound pierces the quiet, a dull thud from the left, not loud but heavy, like a stone dropped into still water. Your heart lurches. Grenade. Mine? The forest offers no answers. You press yourself deeper into the foxhole, its frozen walls scraping your shoulders, a cramped cocoon that feels more like a cage than a refuge. The cold is a relentless hunter, numbing your fingers until they fumble on the rifle's stock. You strain your ears, the wind's low moan now a chorus of ghosts, carrying the crunch of snow, the faint snap of a branch. Is it the forest settling, or something worse? Your breath catches, a faint plume in the dark, and you curse its betrayal. The army drilled you to stay alert, but no training prepares you for this. The way silence twists into suspicion, making every sound a threat. You think of home, of quiet nights under a quilt, but the memory is a cruel taunt, as distant as the stars hidden by clouds. A flare arcs into the sky, sudden and blinding, bathing the forest in a sickly white-green glow. The trees stand stark, their branches like claws frozen mid-reach, and there, between them, you see it, movement. Shadows shift, deliberate, human. Not deer, not wind, but men crouching low, gliding through the underbrush. Your pulse hammers, a drumbeat in your chest, as you fumble for the radio clipped to your belt. Movement. 10 o'clock, you whisper, voice barely audible, as if the words themselves could draw fire. The radio crackles faintly, but no response comes, only static, a mocking hum that deepens your isolation. You glance toward Joe's foxhole, hoping for a sign, but the flare's light fades, plunging you back into darkness. The forest feels alive now, its silence a lie exposed by that single thud. You grip the garand, its weight grounding you, though your hands tremble, not just from cold, but from the dread that coils in your gut like a snake. The Battle of the Bulge is a German gamble, a panzer-driven thrust to split the Allied lines, and you're a pawn in its shadow, holding a 300-yard stretch of dirt near Bastogne. The 101st is surrounded, cut off, and the snow buries hope as surely as it buries the roads. You've heard of German scouts, silent as spectres, probing the lines before the tanks roll in. That thud could be their calling card, a warning of worse to come. You wonder if you'll see dawn, or if this hole will be your grave. Joe's silhouette shifts in his foxhole, a faint glint of his helmet catching the last of the flare's glow. He signals with a raised hand, a silent question. You see it too? You nod, though he can't see, and adjust your grip on the rifle, thumb brushing the safety. Tommy's hole is quiet, too quiet, and you fight the urge to call out. Sound is a traitor here, a lesson drilled into you after hearing tales of men lost to a careless whisper. You think of the irony. If you survive this, you'll tell your buddies back home you outsmarted the Germans by staying silent. But if you don't, at least you'll have the quietest funeral in the Ardennes. The thought is grim, a flicker of defiance against the fear clawing at your mind. The flare's light is gone, and the darkness rushes back, thicker than before, as if angered by the intrusion. Your eyes strain, useless now, and you lean on sound. Every creak, every rustle a potential death sentence. Another snap, closer this time, maybe 50 yards out. Your heart races, and you force it to slow, breathing shallow to keep the plume of frost from giving you away. The cold is merciless, turning your fingers stiff, your joints aching as if the forest itself is squeezing you. You think of the soldiers who held this line before, their foxholes now lost to the snow. The Ardennes has seen blood for centuries, and you're just another offering, a boy with a rifle against an enemy you can't yet name. Your radio lies silent, its static a reminder of how alone you are. You try again, whispering coordinates, but the crackle mocks you, a broken lifeline in a war that spares no one. The 101st is stretched thin, surrounded, with supplies dwindling and the Germans pressing closer. Bastogne is the key, a name that carries the weight of survival, but to you, it's just a word, as distant as the life you left behind. You think of your mother, her hands kneading dough, the warmth of her kitchen. The memory is a knife, cutting deeper than the cold, and you push it away, focusing on the rifle, the dirt, the now. Survival is a matter of moments, and this moment demands your full attention. The forest seems to tighten, its trees leaning closer, their shadows blending into the night. You listen, ears aching from the strain, and hear it again. A faint crunch, deliberate, human. Your fingers tighten on the garand, the trigger guard biting into your skin. You imagine German scouts, their faces hidden, their knives gleaming in the dark. You've heard stories of entire squads vanishing, their foxholes found empty at dawn, and the thought sends a shiver down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you wonder if you're brave or just too stubborn to give up. Either way, you're here, a speck in the war's vast machinery, and the night is far from over. The cold shapes your thoughts, turning them sharp, jagged. You check your rifle's clip, a ritual to keep your hand steady, though your fingers fumble in the dark. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this war, but it feels like a story told to children, too fragile to believe. If you survive, you'll carry this night with you, a weight no one will see. The Ardennes is a crucible, forging you into something harder, something less. You're not just a soldier, you're a witness to a war that doesn't care about your name. And so you wait, rifle ready, heart pounding, as the forest holds its secrets close, daring you to face what comes next. The night is a vast, unyielding shroud, wrapping you in its icy embrace as you crouch in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, and the Ardennes forest is a silent judge, its trees looming like spectres in the dark. The air is thick with the scent of frozen pine and the faint, bitter sting of gunpowder, a reminder of the war that lingers just beyond your sight. Your M1 Garand rests against the frosted wall, its steel glinting faintly, a cold companion in a world where hope is as scarce as warmth. The snow falls in relentless whispers, piling around your boots, each flake a tiny weight that adds to the burden of the night. The recent thud, a grenade or mine, still echoes in your mind, and now the silence feels like a trap, poised to spring. You fumble for the radio, its weight a small anchor in the chaos of your thoughts. Command, this is WW2. Movement at 10 o'clock, you whisper. Voice barely a breath, as if the words could summon death. The response is a crackle of static, a mocking hum that cuts you off from the world beyond your hole. You try again, pressing the button harder, as if force could coax a voice from the void. Nothing. The radio is dead, or the Germans have jammed the signal, a tactic you've heard whispered about in briefings. The Battle of the Bulge is a desperate clash, and the enemy knows how to sever lifelines. Your heart pounds, a frantic rhythm against the stillness, and you wonder if the forest itself is conspiring to keep you isolated. The foxhole is a prison, its icy walls pressing closer with every breath. The cold is a relentless thief, stealing sensation from your fingers, turning them clumsy as you grip the rifle. You strain your ears, the wind's low wail now a chorus of doubts, carrying the crunch of snow, the faint snap of a twig. Is it a deer lost in the dark, or a German scout moving with the precision of a predator? You force your breathing to slow, each exhale a faint plume that betrays your presence. The silence is a blade, sharp and unforgiving, cutting into your resolve. You think of home, of quiet evenings by a fire, but the memory is a ghost, fading into the frost that clings to your coat like a second skin. Joe's voice breaks the quiet, a hushed whisper from his foxhole to your left. "You hear that?" he asks, his tone taut, stripped of its usual Chicago bravado. You nod, though he can't see, and strain to listen. Another sound, a soft crunch, closer now, maybe 30 yards out. Your pulse spikes, and you tighten your grip on the Garand, its trigger guard biting into your palm. The forest is a maze of shadows, and you're a speck within it, a boy tasked with holding a 300-yard line against an enemy you can't see. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, and Bastogne is a distant dream, a name that carries weight but no comfort. You wonder if you'll survive to see it, or if this hole will claim you first. The radio's silence is a weight, heavier than the snow piling around you. You think of the men who trained you, their voices barking orders in the safety of a stateside camp. They didn't tell you about this, the way a dead radio feels like a death sentence, the way silence can scream louder than gunfire. You imagine the Germans out there, their signals crossing the ether, plotting your end while you sit blind and mute. If you make it through this, you muse, you'll tell your buddies back home you outsmarted the enemy by doing nothing. A victory so quiet it's almost a joke. But the humor is bitter, born of desperation, and it fades as quickly as it comes, swallowed by the night's relentless grip. The forest seems to pulse, its darkness a living thing that watches your every move. You listen, ears aching from the strain, and hear it again. A deliberate crunch, too measured to be random. Your fingers tighten on the rifle, the cold making them sluggish, as if the frost is conspiring with the enemy. You've heard stories of German scouts, their knives gleaming in the dark, slipping through the lines to silence sentries before the tanks roll in. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you wonder how many others have sat in this same dirt, their courage tested by the same silence. The Ardennes is a graveyard, its soil heavy with the ghosts of wars past, and you're just another soul it might claim. Your equipment is a lifeline, fragile as it is. The M1 Garand, with its 8-round clip, is your only defense, but its weight feels heavier with every passing minute. Your pack holds a canteen of half-frozen water, a few tins of rations, and a letter you haven't dared to read. The poncho, meant to shield you, is a cruel mockery, its fabric stiff with ice, clinging to you like a shroud. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, their coffee hot. Here, warmth is a memory, and survival is a game of endurance. You'd trade your helmet for a moment of heat, but then you'd have nothing to stop a bullet. A bargain only the desperate would consider. The silence grows heavier, pressing against your chest like a stone. You try to focus on the present, on the texture of the rifle, the bite of the cold, but your mind drifts to what might come next. If the Germans are out there, they're closer now, their movements hidden by the forest's cloak. You think of your family, of the life you left behind, and the weight of it nearly breaks you, but you push it away, focusing on the now, on the rifle in your hands, on the line you must hold. The 101st is fighting for Bastogne, for the war, for a future you can't yet see. And so you wait, heart pounding, ears straining, as the night holds its secrets close, daring you to face what lies beyond. The darkness is a predator, its jaws closing around you as you crouch in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, and the Ardennes forest is a maze of menace, its silence shattered by the recent thud of a grenade or mine. Your M1 Garand is a cold weight in your hands, its barrel slick with frost, a frail shield against the night's hunger. The air carries the sharp scent of pine and the acrid tang of smoke, as if the war exhales its breath. Snow falls in relentless whispers, piling around your boots, each flake a silent accusation. Then a shadow moves, a figure low and deliberate, gliding between the trees. Your heart slams against your ribs, and the night, once still, now pulses with threat. You press deeper into the foxhole, its icy walls scraping your shoulders, a cramped tomb that offers no comfort. The cold is a relentless hunter, numbing your fingers until they fumble on the rifle's trigger guard. You raise the Garand, squinting into the blackness, but the figure is gone, swallowed by the forest's cloak. The light is too weak, the shadows too deep, and doubt gnaws at you. Was it real, or a trick of a tired mind? Your breath catches, a faint plume in the dark, and you curse its betrayal. The radio, silent since the last crackle of static, is a useless weight on your belt, leaving you cut off from command, from hope. The Battle of the Bulge is a German thrust to break the Allies, and you're a speck in its chaos, holding a fragile line near Bastogne. A faint rustle breaks the quiet. Closer now, maybe 20 yards out. Your pulse spikes, and you tighten your grip on the rifle, its stock pressing into your palm like a lifeline. Then, a new sound. A soft, rolling clatter, like a stone on ice. Grenade. Instinct takes over, and you dive to the bottom of the foxhole, curling tight as the world explodes. The blast is a thunderclap, showering dirt and ice across your back, the shockwave rattling your teeth. Your ears ring, a high-pitched whine that drowns out the forest whispers. You scrabble upright, heart pounding, and peer over the edge. Two figures charge forward, low and fast, their silhouettes stark against the snow. Your finger finds the trigger, and you fire, once, twice, 3 times. The muzzle flash blinds you, painting the night in fleeting bursts of fire. The forest erupts, a cacophony of shouts and gunfire. German voices, sharp and guttural, cut through the dark, answered by the crack of rifles from nearby foxholes. Joe's voice, rough with urgency, calls from his hole to your left, "Keep firing, kid." You obey, the Garand kicking against your shoulder, each shot a desperate plea to hold the line. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, and Bastogne is a distant beacon, a name that carries the weight of survival. The Germans are probing, their scouts testing your defenses before the tanks roll in. You feel a sting on your arm. A graze, warm and wet, but the cold numbs the pain. You fumble for a new clip, hands shaking, and slam it home. The metallic click, a small victory in the chaos. The night is a beast, its claws raking through the trees as flares arc overhead, casting a sickly glow. The forest is alive with movement, shadows darting, figures crouching, the glint of steel in the dark. You fire again, not aiming so much as willing the bullets to find their mark. The Germans are close, too close. Their shouts a jagged edge against your nerves. You think of home, of quiet streets and warm beds, but the thought is a knife, twisting in your chest. If you survive this, you muse. You'll tell your friends you fought off an army with a rifle and a bad attitude. The idea is absurd, a flicker of defiance against the fear that threatens to swallow you whole. Your foxhole is a crucible, forging you in fear and fire. The cold is no longer just weather, it's a force, slowing your movements, clouding your thoughts. You glance toward Tommy's hole, hoping for a sign, but it's silent, shrouded in darkness. Joe's rifle barks steadily, a rhythm you cling to, a reminder that you're not alone. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you're part of it, a boy with a rifle in a war that doesn't care about your name. The Germans are relentless, their scouts trained to strike and fade, and you wonder how many have slipped through the lines, their knives sharper than the night. Your equipment is a lifeline, fragile and worn. The M1 Garand, with its 8-round clip, is your only defense, but each shot feels like a gamble. Your pack holds a canteen of slushy water, a few tins of rations, and a letter you haven't dared to read. The poncho, stiff with ice, clings to you like a second skin, offering no warmth. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, and a bitter envy stirs. Here, survival is a matter of seconds, each one a test of will. You'd trade your helmet for a moment of peace, but then you'd have nothing to stop a bullet, a deal only the desperate would make. The forest is a battlefield, its trees witnesses to a war older than you. The Ardennes has seen blood before, its soil heavy with the ghosts of battles past. You're just another soul, tasked with holding a 300-yard line against an enemy that moves like smoke. The flares fade, and the darkness rushes back, thicker, angrier. You listen, ears aching, for the next sound, a footstep, a shout, a grenade. The silence is a lie, a pause before the storm. You think of the future, of a life beyond this war, but it feels like a story told to children, too fragile to hold. For now, you're here, rifle in hand, heart pounding, ready to face whatever the night brings. The forest is a cauldron of chaos, its darkness torn open by gunfire and shouts that rend the night. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, crouched in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944, where the Ardennes pulses with the raw violence of the Battle of the Bulge. Your M1 Garand kicks against your shoulder, each shot a flare of defiance in the black void. The air is thick with the acrid bite of cordite and the sour tang of churned earth, stirred by explosions that shake the frozen ground. Snow swirls, caught in the fleeting glow of flares, each one painting the trees in a ghostly white-green hue. German voices, sharp and guttural, slice through the din, answered by the crack of rifles from foxholes along the line. Your arm stings, a warm graze where a bullet kissed your sleeve, but the cold numbs the pain, leaving only the fire of fear. Your foxhole is a fragile bastion, its icy walls trembling with each blast. The grenade's echo still rings in your ears, a thunderclap that showered dirt and ice across your back. You reload, fingers clumsy with cold. The metallic click of the Garand's clip, a faint anchor in the storm. Flares arc overhead, their light revealing German soldiers, shadows no more, but men, their faces taut with purpose, advancing through the trees. They're close, 30 yards, maybe less, their helmets glinting like cruel stars. You fire, the muzzle flash blinding, each shot a desperate bid to push back the night. Joe's voice, raw and urgent, cuts through from his hole to your left. "Keep 'em pinned, kid." You obey, heart hammering, as the forest becomes a battlefield, alive with the roar of war. The cold is a forgotten enemy now, eclipsed by the heat of combat. Your breath comes in sharp gasps, each one a plume that betrays your position. But there's no time to care. The Germans are relentless, their shouts weaving through the gunfire. A language you don't understand but feel in your bones. You think of home, of quiet Ohio evenings, but the memory is a fleeting spark, snuffed out by the crack of a bullet striking a nearby tree. If you survive this, you muse, you'll tell your friends you fought a war in a hole, and they'll laugh, thinking it's a joke. But there's no humor here, only a grim resolve, a flicker of defiance born from the desperate need to live another minute. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, holding a 300-yard line against a German onslaught that feels unstoppable. Bastogne is a name heavy with meaning, a linchpin in this frozen hell. But to you, it's just a word, as distant as the life you left behind. The Germans are probing, their scouts testing your defenses, a prelude to the tanks that lurk in the fog. You've heard of panzer divisions, their steel hulls grinding through the snow, and the thought sends a shiver down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold. Your foxhole is your world, a shallow grave where you fight to prove you're more than a name on a casualty list. Tommy's hole is silent, a void in the chaos, and you fight the urge to call out. Joe's rifle barks steadily, a rhythm you cling to, a reminder that you're not alone. The flares cast fleeting shadows, revealing German soldiers darting between trees, their movements precise, predatory. You fire again, the Garands recoil a familiar jolt, each shot a prayer for survival. Your arm throbs, the graze now a sticky warmth soaking your sleeve. But there's no time to check it. You reload, hands shaking, and fire, the muzzle flash painting your face in fleeting bursts of light. The forest is a symphony of violence, its trees witnesses to a war that spares no one. The cold, once a tyrant, is now a distant memory, overwhelmed by the adrenaline coursing through you. Your poncho, stiff with ice, clings to your shoulders, a useless shield against the night's fury. Your pack lies forgotten, its contents, canteen, rations, a letter, buried under a layer of snow. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, and a bitter envy stirs. Here survival is a matter of moments, each one a test of will. You'd trade your rifle for a moment of peace, but then you'd be defenseless. A bargain only the desperate would consider, and you're not that far gone. Not yet. The Ardennes is a crucible, its soil heavy with the ghosts of battles past. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you're part of it. A boy with a rifle in a war that doesn't care about your name. The Germans are close, their shouts a jagged edge against your nerves, their bullets snapping through the air. You think of the men who held this line before, their foxholes now lost to the snow, their stories buried with them. The forest is indifferent, its trees standing like silent judges, watching as you fight for a patch of dirt that history will forget. Your rifle jams just for a moment, and panic spikes, sharp and cold. You clear it, hands fumbling, and fire again, the shot echoing in the chaos. Joe's voice rings out, a mix of command and desperation, urging you to hold the line. You do, because there's no other choice. The flares fade, and the darkness rushes back, thicker, angrier, as if resentful of the light. You listen, ears straining, for the next sound. A shout, a footstep, a bullet. The night is far from over, and you're still here, a speck in the war's vast machinery, fighting to outlast the forest's hunger. The forest is a furnace of violence, its darkness shattered by the relentless crack of gunfire and the guttural shouts of men locked in combat. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, clinging to your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944, where the Ardennes roars with the chaos of the Battle of the Bulge. Your M1 Garand bucks against your shoulder, each shot a defiant pulse in the night's savage heart. The air is thick with the acrid sting of cordite, the churned earth musk of shattered ground, and the faint metallic tang of blood, yours seeping from a graze on your arm. Flares arc overhead, casting a sickly glow that paints the trees in stark relief, revealing German soldiers, their faces grim and purposeful, advancing through the snow. You fire, reload, fire again, your hands trembling not from cold, but from the raw urgency of survival. Your foxhole is a battered stronghold, its icy walls trembling with each explosion, a shallow sanctuary in a world gone mad. The cold, once a tyrant, is now a distant memory, overwhelmed by the heat of adrenaline coursing through your veins. Your arm throbs. The graze a warm, sticky reminder that you're still alive, though the pain is a whisper compared to the fear screaming in your chest. You fumble for a new clip, fingers clumsy with haste, and slam it home, the metallic click a fleeting triumph in the din. The Germans are close, 20 yards maybe less, their helmets glinting like cruel stars under the flare's light. You aim, fire, and watch a figure stumble, but there's no time to think, only to act. The forest is a battlefield, its trees silent witnesses to a war that spares no one. Joe's voice, hoarse and urgent, cuts through the chaos from his foxhole to your left. "Hold the line, kid," he shouts, his rifle barking steadily, a rhythm you cling to like a lifeline. Tommy's hole is silent, a void in the storm, and you push away the dread that it brings. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, holding a 300-yard stretch of dirt against a German onslaught that feels unstoppable. Bastogne is the linchpin, a name heavy with meaning, but to you, it's just a word, as distant as the life you left behind. The Germans are relentless, their scouts probing your defences, a prelude to the panzer divisions lurking in the fog. You fire, the Garands recoil a familiar jolt, each shot a prayer to keep the line intact. The night is a beast, its claws raking through the trees as flares illuminate the chaos. German shouts weave through the gunfire, a language you don't understand but feel in your bones. You think of home, of quiet Ohio evenings, but the memory is a spark snuffed out by the crack of a bullet striking a nearby trunk. If you survive this, you muse, you'll tell your friends you held off an army with a rifle and a torn coat, and they'll laugh, thinking it's a tall tale. But there's no humour here, only a grim resolve, a flicker of defiance born from the desperate need to live another moment. Your arm throbs, the graze soaking your sleeve, but you ignore it, focusing on the rhythm of reload, aim, fire. The forest is a crucible, forging you in fear and fire. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you're part of it. A boy with a rifle in a war that doesn't care about your name. The Germans are close, their shouts a jagged edge against your nerves, their bullets snapping through the air like angry wasps. You think of the men who held this line before, their foxholes now buried under snow, their stories lost to the wind. The Ardennes is a graveyard, its soil heavy with the ghosts of battles past, and you're just another soul it might claim. But you fight, because the line is you, and you are the line, and surrender is not a word you know. Your equipment is a lifeline, fragile and worn. The M1 Garand, with its 8-round clip, is your only defense, but each shot feels like a gamble. Your pack lies buried under snow, its contents, canteen, rations, a letter, forgotten in the chaos. The poncho, stiff with ice, clings to your shoulders, a useless shield against the night's fury. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, and a bitter envy stirs. Here, survival is a matter of seconds, each one a test of will. You trade your helmet for a moment of peace, but then you be defenseless, a bargain only the desperate would consider, and you're not that far gone, not yet. The flares fade, and the darkness rushes back, thicker, angrier, as if resentful of the light. You listen, ears aching, for the next sound, a shout, a footstep, a bullet. Joe's rifle keeps its steady rhythm, a beacon in the storm, and you draw strength from it, firing into the shadows where the Germans move. Your arm burns, the graze a constant reminder of your fragility, but you push through, reloading with hands that shake from exhaustion. The 101st is fighting for Bastogne, for the war, for a future you can't yet see. You're just a boy, a speck in the war's vast machinery, but you fight because the line must hold, and you're all that's left to hold it. The night stretches on, a vast, unyielding thing that seems to mock your smallness. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this war, but it feels like a fairy tale, too fragile to hold. If you survive, you'll carry this night with you, a scar no one will see. The Ardennes is a battlefield, its trees witnesses to a war older than you, and you're just another soul tasked with holding a patch of dirt that history will forget. But for now, you're here, rifle in hand, heart pounding, ready to face whatever the night brings. The forest exhales, and the chaos recedes, leaving a silence that feels heavier than the gunfire it replaced. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, huddled in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944, where the Ardennes holds its breath after the storm of battle. Your M1 Garand rests against the icy wall, its barrel still warm from the fight. A faint pulse in the night's cold grip. The air is thick with the acrid residue of cordite, mingled with the damp musk of churned earth and the faint, metallic tang of blood seeping from the graze on your arm. Snow falls in whispers, blanketing the ground, as if trying to erase the violence that tore through moments ago. The German shouts have faded, their footsteps retreating into the trees, and the darkness settles back, watchful, unyielding. Your foxhole is a battered refuge, its walls scarred by the blast of grenades, its floor a slurry of ice and dirt. The cold creeps back, a patient hunter reclaiming its territory now that the adrenaline has ebbed. Your arm throbs, the graze a sticky warmth under your sleeve, but you ignore it, too drained to care. You slump against the wall, the frozen earth biting into your back, and listen to the silence, a vast oppressive thing that seems to mock your survival. The flares are gone, their ghostly light extinguished, leaving only the faint glint of snow under a starless sky. You strain your ears, expecting another shout, another shot, but the forest offers nothing, just the low moan of the wind, a dirge for the fallen. You call out softly to Tommy's foxhole, your voice a hesitant whisper, barely louder than the snow. No answer comes. The silence from his hole is a weight, heavier than the cold, and you push away the dread that claws at your heart. Joe's voice, rough but steady, drifts from his foxhole to your left. "You still with me, kid?" he asks, and you nod, though he can't see, grateful for the lifeline of his words. You want to ask about Tommy, but the words stick in your throat, frozen by the fear of what they might confirm. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, holding a fragile line against a German onslaught in the Battle of the Bulge. Bastogne's a beacon, but to you, it's just a name, as distant as the life you left behind. The silence is a paradox, both a reprieve and a threat. You've survived the attack, but the quiet feels like a trap. A pause before the next wave. Your hands tremble as you check the Garand's clip, a ritual to anchor your thoughts. The rifle is your only defense. It's 8 rounds of fragile promise in a war that spares no one. You think of home, of quiet Ohio nights, the hum of a radio in the background, but the memory is a fragile thread, snapping under the weight of the present. If you make it through, you muse, you'll tell your friends you outlasted the Germans by hiding in a hole, a victory so absurd it's almost a punchline. But the humor is fleeting, born of desperation, and it fades into the night's relentless grip. The forest is a witness, its trees standing like silent judges, their branches heavy with snow. The Ardennes has seen blood before, its soil a tapestry of wars older than your grandfather's stories. You're just another thread, a boy tasked with holding a 300-yard line against an enemy that moves like smoke. The 101st is fighting for survival, for Bastogne, for a future you can't yet see. You think of the men who held this line before, their foxholes now buried, their names lost to the wind. The silence is their legacy, a reminder that survival is a fleeting gift, one you've earned for now but may not keep. Your equipment is a study in endurance, worn and battered. The M1 Garand, its stock worn smooth by hands long gone, is your lifeline, but its weight drags at your arms. Your pack, buried under snow, holds a canteen of slushy water, a few tins of rations, and a letter you haven't dared to open. The poncho, stiff with ice, clings to your shoulders, a useless shield against the cold. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, and a bitter envy stirs. Here, survival is a matter of moments, each one a test of will. You'd trade your boots for a moment of warmth, but then you'd freeze. A bargain only the desperate would consider, and you're not that far gone. Joe breaks the silence again, his voice softer now, offering a cigarette you can't see but can smell. Its faint tobacco scent, a rare comfort. You take it, though your fingers fumble, and the act feels like a small rebellion against the night. You don't light it. Matches are a death sentence here. But you hold it, a promise of normalcy in a world gone mad. Joe mutters about Chicago, about a bar where the beer was cheap and the fights were free, and you cling to his words, a fragile bridge to a life beyond this war. Tommy's silence lingers, a shadow you can't shake, and you wonder if he's still there, or if the forest has claimed him. The cold returns, sharper now, as if angered by your survival. Your arm aches, the graze a dull throb that reminds you you're still human. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this war, but it feels like a fairy tale too fragile to hold. The Ardennes is a crucible, forging you in fear and silence, and you're just a boy, a speck in its vast machinery. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you're part of it, a soldier tasked with proving you're more than a name on a casualty list. For now, you're alive, breathing, holding the line, and so you wait, rifle in hand, as the forest watches, its silence a challenge you meet with every breath. The forest exhales, and the dawn creeps in, a fragile light that seeps through the trees like a whisper of mercy. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, slumped in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944, where the Ardennes bears the scars of the night's violence. Your M1 Garand lies across your lap, its barrel cool now, a silent witness to the battle of the Bulge's fury. The air is heavy with the fading sting of cordite, the damp musk of churned earth, and the faint, coppery tang of blood from the graze on your arm. Snow blankets the ground, softening the edges of the chaos, as if the forest seeks to bury its wounds. The German shouts have faded, their footsteps lost to the trees, and the silence returns, gentler now, tinged with the promise of morning. Your foxhole is a battered shrine, its icy walls pitted by shrapnel, its floor a mess of dirt and frost. The cold is a quiet predator, creeping back as the adrenaline ebbs, numbing your fingers and stinging your graze. You shift, and the earth groans, a reminder of the night's toll on your body and soul. The dawn's light, pale and hesitant, paints the trees in shades of grey, revealing a landscape scarred by battle, broken branches, churned snow, a helmet half buried in the drift. You're alive, a fact that feels both miraculous and heavy, as if survival carries a debt you can't yet name. You think of home, of Ohio's golden mornings, but the memory is a fragile thread, fraying under the weight of this frozen dawn. You call out to Tommy's foxhole, your voice a soft plea, barely louder than the wind. No answer comes. The silence is a stone in your chest, and you look away, unable to face the emptiness. Joe's voice, rough but steady, drifts from his hole to your left. "We made it, kid," he says, and you hear the strain beneath his words, the grief he doesn't speak. You nod, though he can't see, and fumble for a cigarette he offered earlier, its tobacco scent a faint comfort in the cold. You don't light it, matches are a risk, but you hold it, a small rebellion against the night's shadow. The 101st is surrounded, cut off, holding a 300-yard line against a German onslaught, and Bastogne remains a distant beacon, a name that carries the weight of hope. The dawn reveals the cost of survival. You peer over the foxhole's edge, and the light shows empty holes along the line, their occupants gone, some to the rear, some to the earth. Tommy's silence is a wound, deeper than the graze on your arm, and you wonder if he's among them. Joe's eyes are red, his face etched with lines that weren't there yesterday, but he doesn't speak of it. You share the cigarette, passing it back and forth, a ritual to anchor you to the living. If you survive this, you muse. You'll tell your friends you outlasted the Germans by hiding in a hole and smoking a cigarette you didn't light. The thought is bitter, a flicker of defiance born from the ache of loss, and it fades into the morning's chill. The forest is a silent witness, its trees standing like mourners, their branches heavy with snow. The Ardennes has seen blood before, its soil a chronicle of wars older than your family's stories. You're just another chapter, a boy tasked with holding a line that history will forget. The 101st is fighting for Bastogne, for a future you can't yet see, and you're part of it, a soldier forged in the crucible of this night. You think of the men who held this line before, their foxholes now buried, their names lost to the wind. The dawn is a reprieve, but it's not a promise, and you know the Germans will return, their panzer divisions lurking in the fog. Your equipment is a testament to endurance, worn and battered. The M1 Garand, its clip half empty, is your lifeline, but its weight feels heavier now, as if carrying the night's losses. Your pack, buried under snow, holds a canteen of slushy water, a few tins of rations, and a letter you haven't opened. The poncho, stiff with ice, clings to your shoulders, a useless shield against the cold. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, and a quiet envy stirs. Here, survival is a matter of moments, each one a test of will. You'd trade your helmet for a moment of warmth, but then you'd be defenseless. A bargain only the desperate would consider, and you're not that far gone. Joe breaks the silence, his voice softer now, talking of a bistro in Chicago where the steak was tough, but the company was good. You listen, clinging to his words. A fragile bridge to a world beyond this war. You want to talk about Tommy, to ask what happened, but the words stick in your throat, frozen by the weight of what they might mean. The forest is still, its silence no longer a threat but a mourner, grieving for those who didn't see the dawn. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this war, but it feels like a fairy tale, too fragile to hold. For now, you're alive, breathing, holding the line, and that's enough. The Ardennes is a crucible, forging you in loss and survival. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you're part of it, a boy with a rifle in a war that doesn't care about your name. The dawn is a gift, but it's fleeting, and you know the night will return, bringing with it the Germans and their hunger. You're not the same boy who climbed into this hole yesterday, and you never will be again. The forest watches, its trees silent witnesses to your struggle, and you meet its gaze, ready for whatever comes next. The dawn is a fragile truce, its pale light spilling over the Ardennes, like a hesitant promise. You're 19, a private in the 101st Infantry Division, slumped in your foxhole near Bastogne, December 1944, where the forest bears the scars of a night that nearly broke you. Your M1 Garand rests against the icy wall, its barrel dulled by frost, a silent witness to the battle of the Bulge's relentless grind. The air is heavy with the fading sting of gunpowder, the damp musk of churned earth, and the faint, coppery tang of blood from the graze on your arm, now crusted over. Snow falls softly, blanketing the ground, as if the forest seeks to soften the wounds of battle. But the silence is fleeting. shattered by the low murmur of voices from the command post, carrying a new weight. The Germans will strike again tonight. Your foxhole is a battered sanctuary, its walls pitted by shrapnel, its floor a frozen slurry of dirt and ice. The cold is a patient predator, creeping back as the adrenaline of survival fades, numbing your fingers and stinging your wound. You shift, and the earth groans, a reminder of the night's toll on your body and soul. By midday, a runner arrives, his boots crunching through the snow, his breath a white plume in the chill. "Orders," he says, voice clipped, and hands you a folded paper. The words are stark. Hold the line. Expect attack at dusk. You look at your foxhole, its edges jagged and unyielding, and it feels less like a refuge now, more like a grave waiting to claim you. You tighten the strap of your rifle, a ritual to steady your hands and brace for the night ahead. Joe's voice, rough but steady, drifts from his foxhole to your left. "Another round, kid," he says, and you hear the weariness beneath his Chicago drawl, a fatigue that mirrors your own. Tommy's hole remains silent, a void that haunts you, its emptiness a wound you can't face. You want to call out, to hear his voice, but the fear of what silence might confirm keeps you quiet. The 101st is surrounded, cut off from supplies, holding a 300-yard line against a German onslaught that shows no mercy. Bastogne is the linchpin, a name that carries the weight of survival, but to you, it's just a word, as distant as the life you left behind. You think of home, of Ohio's quiet streets, but the memory is a faint ember, smothered by the cold. You check your equipment, a ritual born of necessity. The M1 Garand, its clip half empty, is your lifeline, but its weight feels heavier now, as if carrying the night's losses. Your pack, buried under snow, holds a canteen of slushy water, a few tins of rations and a letter you haven't dared to read. The poncho, stiff with ice, clings to your shoulders, a useless shield against the cold. You think of soldiers in warmer fronts, their tents lit by lanterns, and a quiet envy stirs. Here, survival is a matter of moments, each one a test of will. If you make it through, you muse. You'll tell your friends you survived the Ardennes by hiding in a hole and praying the Germans had worse aim than the army's cooks. The thought is bitter, a flicker of defiance born from the ache of loss, and it fades into the forest's chill. The forest is a silent judge, its trees standing like mourners, their branches heavy with snow. The Ardennes has seen blood before, its soil a chronicle of wars older than your family stories. You're just another chapter, a boy tasked with holding a line that history will forget. The 101st is fighting for Bastogne, for a future you can't yet see, and you're part of it, a soldier forged in the crucible of this night. You think of the men who held this line before, their foxholes now buried, their names lost to the wind. The orders weigh heavily, a reminder that survival is not a victory but a pause, a moment to catch your breath before the next fight. You tighten your bootlaces, fingers fumbling in the cold, and check your rifle's safety, a ritual to anchor your thoughts. The graze on your arm throbs, a dull reminder of your fragility, but you push it aside, focusing on the now. Joe breaks the silence, his voice softer now, talking of a bistro in Chicago, where the steak was tough, but the company was good. You listen, clinging to his words, a fragile bridge to a world beyond this war. You want to talk about Tommy, to ask what happened, but the words stick in your throat, frozen by the weight of what they might mean. The forest watches, its silence no longer a threat but a mourner, grieving for those who didn't see the dawn. The cold is relentless, turning your breath into fragile clouds that dissolve into the air. You think of the future, a warm bed, a life beyond this war, but it feels like a fairy tale, too fragile to hold. If you survive, you'll carry this night with you, a scar no one will see. The Ardennes is a battlefield. Its trees witnesses to a war older than you, and you're just a boy, a speck in its vast machinery. The 101st is holding this line against impossible odds, and you're part of it, a soldier tasked with proving you're more than a name on a casualty list. You climb back into your foxhole, rifle in hand, and brace for the night, ready to face whatever it brings. The night in the Ardennes has faded, its frost and shadows now a whisper in your heart. You've held the line, a boy in a foxhole, where courage met fear under a starless sky. The battle of the Bulge lingers, a tale of endurance etched in snow. Now, let your shoulders soften, your breath slow, as the forest silence cradles you. Sink into your blankets, let the cold of Bastogne drift away, and allow sleep to claim you gently, like a tide. If your eyes still linger in the dark, share your thoughts below. Where are you, and what hour holds you? Tomorrow night, another story waits, a new journey through history's quiet depths. For now, rest, dear listener, and let the echoes of the past guide you to dreams. Sleep deep, sleep soft, until the dawn.